It was a gloomy October afternoon when 4 friends, Lucas, Sarah, Tom, and Emily, decided to explore the old abandoned hospital on the outskirts of town. The building had stood vacant for decades, shrouded in mystery and dark rumors. Locals whispered that strange things happened there, that it was cursed, but the 4 teenagers, bored and seeking adventure, dismissed the warnings as nothing more than ghost stories. They arrived at the hospital just before dusk, its towering structure looming over them like a silent sentinel. The windows were broken, and ivy crawled up the cracked walls. The air was thick with decay, and a strange silence hung in the air, broken only by the occasional rustling of dead leaves in the wind. "This place gives me the creeps," Sarah muttered, clutching her flashlight tightly. "Don't be such a baby," Tom teased, leading the group forward. "It's just an old building." They pushed open the rusty doors with a groan, stepping into the darkened corridor. Inside, the air was colder, and the smell of mold and rot filled their noses. The long hallways stretched out before them, lined with rusted gurneys and broken equipment. Faded medical charts littered the floor, and peeling paint hung from the walls like dead skin. Lucas, the bravest of the group, took the lead. "Let's head to the top floor. That's where they say the weird stuff happened." The others hesitated, but followed. As they climbed the stairwell, their footsteps echoed unnervingly in the silence. The deeper they ventured into the hospital, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. The air felt thick, almost suffocating, and a strange chill crept into their bones. They reached the top floor, the old psychiatric ward. The doors to the patient rooms were either missing or hanging on by a single hinge, creaking softly in the draft. Lucas pushed open one of the doors and stepped inside. It was a small, grim room with a rusted bed frame in the corner and broken glass scattered on the floor. "Looks like someone had a bad time in here," Emily said with a nervous laugh, though her voice trembled. Suddenly a faint noise caught their attention, a soft whisper, like someone speaking just beyond the walls. "Did you guys hear that?" Sarah whispered, her face pale. They all stood still, listening. The whisper came again, this time louder. It was unintelligible, but unmistakably human. It seemed to be coming from down the hallway. "Probably just the wind," Tom said, though he didn't sound convinced. Lucas, determined to prove there was nothing to be afraid of, walked down the hall toward the sound. The others followed, their flashlights flickering, as if the batteries were failing. The further they walked, the louder the whispers became, until they were nearly deafening, a cacophony of voices speaking all at once. Yet none of it made sense. Suddenly, the lights on their flashlights went out. Darkness swallowed them whole. "Lucas," Sarah called, her voice trembling with fear. "I'm here," Lucas replied, but his voice sounded distant, as if he was far down the hallway, though they had just been standing next to him. Panic set in. They fumbled in the dark, trying to find each other, but it was as if the hospital had twisted around them. The corridors seemed endless, and the whispers grew louder, more insistent. Something brushed against Emily's arm, cold and clammy like a hand, but when she turned, there was no one there. "Let's get out of here," Tom shouted, his voice cracking with terror. But no matter how much they ran, every turn led them back to the same spot, the psychiatric ward. The whispers had turned into screams now, as though the walls themselves were alive, filled with the tortured souls of those who had once been trapped here. In the chaos, they realized Lucas was no longer with them. "Lucas?" Sarah screamed, her voice echoing down the darkened hallways. There was no answer, only the relentless whispers, growing louder, closer. And then they saw him. Lucas was standing at the end of the hallway, facing away from them, unmoving. "Lucas," Tom called, but Lucas didn't respond. They ran toward him, but as they got closer, something was horribly wrong. His body was rigid, unnaturally still. When they finally reached him, they gasped in horror. His eyes were wide open, staring blankly, and his face was frozen in a look of sheer terror. His mouth moved, but no words came out, only a whisper. And then before they could react, the lights flickered back on, revealing the hospital as it truly was. Decayed, abandoned, but with something lingering. The air was thick with malevolence, and as they turned to leave, they realized that they were no longer alone. Shadows moved in the periphery of their vision, and the whispers never stopped. The hospital had claimed another soul,